think everyone has a decent idea of how this is going to go, but it's up to WYLDE to sort of prove us wrong. Obviously, there was the piece before about the stars of tomorrow and the stars of the future here, but getting an idea of how that's going to
shape. Got a snapback on?
What?
Has he got a snapback on his head? That's what I'm seeing, right?
Who?
Evan. He does. Look at him. Got the backwards cap on.
It helps him play faster?
I mean, if this is what has been holding him back, is that he hasn't been whipping out the hat, we'll see.
Imagine.
It could be it.
Everybody's got their good luck charms. We've seen players with good luck charms. So we've seen players with good luck pictures. Now we get a good luck cap. There's some good luck anime figurines, a good luck map of the world.
A good luck map bed not being made.
Good luck, what are those books? Can't read them. Shepherd's good. Well, that's not really a good luck air conditioner because they're at boot camp.
They're all in the same group,
unless they brought the air conditioner with them.
Does anyone remember whenever VP or Empire, one of the two, they were in like a team house and they had like complete like grandmother wallpaper on the walls?
Yeah.
I don't know if anyone remembers that.
Yeah,
that was always a fun time.
I can't remember who it was, but it felt like one of them was playing in a cupboard and the rest of the team.
Yeah,
it's like they made the most of it. And
what about the Korjaka pause on the monitor? That's a classic as well.
I mean, we've had a long road with players of this team or previous players of teams with them, and well, let's see if they can still keep it up. We start here with WYLDE on the attack. Blackbeard and Descent gonna see if they can try and get themselves in and manipulate the space. Now, I really, and I know this isn't sort of the best thing to say at the minute because shields are more powerful than ever. I really enjoy shields on this map because I think they can be quite fun, and it's sort of the play that we used to see, you know, SSG have a lot of joy with. Just send them in, send in Forest on a shield and see what happens. Sort of put the pressure in, and maybe Evan with a bit of that same energy try and get some motion here. They're getting rid of all the util close to the door on the default plant spot. You've also got to make sure that nobody's underneath, and with the Tachanka bouncing fire over, well, it's not going to be easy to settle a plant there.
Yeah, I think that's exactly where they're going to go, just straight in the archives. You know, the shield has been rotated toward this side of the map. Obviously has the fuser as well, but then again, you look at now where the Blackbird's going. The Sense wall to cover off that trip wall over towards Office. Oh, the Frost Mat was able to catch out one, but Evan finds two because of that pocket play using the Sense. Blind them both up over towards Long. Nice little pocket play from WYLDE. It's at least got them into the building, but still, it's an even split. 3 players each.
That's it, back and forth. But you think about what's been sort of removed here, and maybe the biggest counters towards that Blackbeard, right? And towards getting the plant in. Sure, you've still got Pasha, the best player across the world right now, I think, in terms of KD, alongside Joystick and Dan, who are more than happy to try and counter it. But the single impact now, Evan is in a very powerful position. He is under a little bit of heat and fire, and get that goo mine out and still try and creep their way close, ready for the angle and the aggression. And you can see that they're sort of baiting and baying for some time. They're going to swing either side, but they just reveal themselves, and Pasha still, even though they were aware of the fight, is able to take that one out, back and forth, and a trade. It's a bit of a blow here. Now Evan alongside Matt, the two of them with a minute, just have to try and find a sticking point or force the engagements. But Dan, if they know he's a bit isolated, this could be a moment to close down. How aware are they?
Yeah, yellow ping, you can see. They must have a drone or something on him. Yeah, you do. You can see that Sneak is on a drone inside of the waiting room, which is where he is right now. Oh, no, Mats allows him to go back up the staircase, and now it's a big 50-50. Where does Mats look? Does he hold on to the east, or does he look towards Catwalk? This is now what he has to come up against, and loses it, picks the wrong way. Evan now isolated in the 1v2, trying to engage that single man towards the armory wall, but Joystick can just run away, and that's exactly what he's done. He's made that cross over in towards security. Now it's left Evan in quite the predicament. There's a BP as well, calling out his position the whole time to these VP players, so they know exactly where he is, and see what Evan can do.
Well, there's the rotate background. Joystick can just be a problem child, and they're either side of him, and Virtus.pro, I mean, played the end of this time perfectly. See you later. Dan doesn't want the smoke. He's happy to leave you in it.
Close enough round. I mean, it did feel very 50-50, a lot of those gunfights for both sides. Obviously start off well. Nice little pocket play from WYLDE, but still, VP picking up their kills as they do oh so well. But really it comes down to that moment, allowing Dan to get back up in the east. All he had to do was hold an angle onto the stairs. He had full information on where he was, and he lets the player go by. Double frostmat, by the way, in that window also. 2 of them. But still, didn't really make a difference. 1 was enough. But yeah, it was just that 50-50 with Dan. This kill right here, I think this is what kind of determined how this round went. And yeah, Dan held his nerve, won that engagement. And VP, they sit 1-0 up.
1-0 up, and they have themselves their first defense. But as you said, it wasn't a million miles away. You know, you could see that WYLDE kept on trying to probe and prod, and the Blackbeard is going to stick around. I imagine it's going to be the next round ban, get the 3 shields entirely gone. Maybe it's the lowest preference, but Evan was still able to get some ground there. It's just getting the team sort of running behind it, right? And obviously there was a couple of traded engagements as well. I think we had 2 maybe across the whole round. So, you know, it's always a flip of a coin, really, down towards the workshop site itself. And Evan just getting the ping and the reveal on the players. They know who they can expect. Another Legion and another bit of a slowdown here, but it's a lot of mobile damage. There's something about seeing someone play Castle right now, knowing that I can't, that's really upsetting to me.
Yeah, Castle's also pretty popular, you know, operator you'd see in right, just because people love a good Castle strat, don't they?
It's just the amount of times I've gone for a hold that I'm playing against, and I'm like, oh, Castle would be so good. Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
Cafe
Obviously.
top floor, Castle not available. Yeah, it's torture. But anyway, still here to be used, and I don't think WYLDE will struggle with it. You know, they've got the Ash, for example, in, so obviously can take them out at range if needed. And Sneak is looking to sneak his way in, pardon the pun, right in towards Customs, and does get himself in. Thank you for the chuckle. But yeah, just trying to look for early map control, and that's usually what Border's about. It's about kind of picking one side of the map and going for it. And looks to me they're just going to try and rush in and go for the plant under the cover of the Yings, and they're doing that successfully.
Well, they got the shield on the back, so they can't be shot from above as well without problem, and they just keep pushing, but they get the post plant, can pull themselves back. The Blackbeard's there, and now with an air jab caught, they know somebody's coming around the side, but it doesn't actually get a kill on the back of it, and they know there's going to be pressure from that position. The tough thing is, how do you get them out of that situation? You can try and rebuild with the Keybers. That's the first goal, and has blocked off at least the perspective of the door, but Pasha just charges in. Evan gets one. Joystick has the cover. It's a 3 versus Evan right now, and he's got to be able to watch all of them. Does the right decision, dips in, gets the rid of Shepard, but as they start to smash through the Keyber, it's not the end of the world. They're actually going to do it again, and well, somebody is now on the defuse, but they're ready for the fight. They just have to move in, but they're just going to hold on, and he didn't really have any other option there. Sort of out-muscled at the end by the 3 remaining Virtus.pro players, but again, it comes down to 1 versus 1 engagement. It comes down to a trade game that Virtus.pro are just 1 step ahead of.
Yeah, they're just better in the gun department, aren't they? You know, that was never going to be a question. I think the way that VP have played this stage so far, they've been electric. Obviously, Pasha has been the standout player so far, you know, throughout this stage for this side. But again, they can all do it. That's the thing, that this team is probably the best shape I think I've seen this team in some time. You know, just with the way that they've elevated their game. Great retake, really highlighting how strong the Azami can be in these late round positions where she still has some in the pocket. Can use that for those retakes, block up those windows. Just little things like that, you know, it's great to see. But yeah, WYLDE just losing their engagements. Look, they've done well to identify that, look, nothing's really stopping us walking in and going for that plant, but they're just getting outgunned, you know, every turn right now. VP are just on it.
I think that's sort of it, right? It's almost the kind of compliments and commiserations of, you know, you can mention the previous game as I did of against a different team, these things wouldn't be going so right. It's the opposite here. Against a different team, WYLDE would have probably made a couple of lands here. They would have potentially got 1, if not 2 of these rounds so far. They're a bit unlucky that they are against one of those top 4, potentially top 2 teams for the fight for playoffs for the SI points. Still, they have to try and keep piecing things together. They can't let this deter or slow them down. They're into now the tertiary site. It is Bathroom, so it's still the high preference site for lots of teams, Boomsy. It's almost took a bit too much damage there from the Flores drone.
It's actually getting denied by the BP. Have you noticed that? The BP actually using its mechanic is actually stopping them from getting in. So not something you see all too often, but it is working well for VP at the moment. WYLDE are struggling to really get into the building because they're dealing with a tricky position of having the Tachanka denying them access in towards East there. Now, this is a very popular position. Well, it certainly has been over the past 6 months. We see this position be played more and more frequently by defenders, and it's just that initial engagement of taking the fight to the defenders. As a border, it's a small map. You cannot afford to give up map control so easily, and it's just slowing down WYLDE in its tracks, and 2 kills come out for VP, and WYLDE just can't get in. They've not entered the building.
Yeah, I think those were 2 swings outside of top east and then 1 on the long walkway towards Archives, and it's just sort of shut itself down there. Obviously, Boomsy, I don't think was able to get any of those Flores drones out apart from the initial one on the castle. Since then, it's just sort of been a bit lost in the reeds here. WYLDE. Oh, I was going to say, it's easy for us to say we saw the player there. We get outlines, but would have been heartbreaking if they weren't able to pick up that kill. Now they have a first, and they have a bit of a reveal. They're going to see if they can try and slowly clear their way across, opening up an angle and forcing the players. But Virtus.pro aren't going to sit around, right? Regardless of their opponents, they're always going to play the best game they can possibly ahead of them. And you know, they've given up some of the vertical, but they're still very locked in. They can counter anything. There's no way that they can get a hold above, let alone get themselves in for the plant. There's a single player in the corner of office. Joystick wins out during the fight and somehow gets the second. Oh, that one definitely should have probably been pulled away from them, but still, if I said it would be tough to sort of keep the mental game up, but points, that one is probably going to hurt a little bit more.
Yep. But again, for WYLDE, it's just that early game just lost them that. You know, they couldn't get in. VP not holding anything back. You know, good communication. You can see that they're playing off the info that the Tachanka was able to get, you know, early on, playing in that aggressive position over towards these stairs. He's able to call out to his teammates saying, you know, there's one on this side, there's one over here. And then, you know, once players like Joystick and Pasha and Dan get a sniff of that, they are on it, aren't they? They're just straight into business, looking for the swing, looking for the challenge. But yeah, not a great start from WYLDE by any measures, and they will take their time out. It's very tough now, I think. Even myself, what do you really do? You know, because this is VP on top of their game. Even I'm hard. Like, I would... Usually I would say, oh, you do this. I don't even know what to do. I just like... I think I'm no use here.
That's like the rough point of it, right? Is they're not doing anything wrong, per se. They're approaching the problems that are ahead of them. They're going to sort of rotate around. Just sometimes the opponent is that step ahead, and sometimes, you know, they'll just shoot their way out of a problem. And that's that frustrating thing that you can't always prepare for. In fact, I would go as far as say you can't prepare for it. You can try and like prepare to man mark particular players, but if you're up against, you know, some of the best in the world, you're up against Joystick. Some of the best in the world.
7-0.
He's done the James Bond within 3 rounds.
Attackers have discovered the location of a bomb.
Thankfully, it's not the bad James Bond.
No, it's the reverse Bond, which is the better Bond. So what you want to say is the reverse James Bond. Jason Bourne?
10 seconds
or what's the one with Mr. Bean?
Oh, Johnny English.
Johnny English. I'm thinking of, you know, technically Johnny English always saves the day as well, but if there was an opposite to the cool of James Bond, it's potentially Johnny English. I bet it's Tim's favorite movie. I don't know why.
What, Johnny?
Feels like a Tim film. Yeah, I love that film. 3-0. Virtus.pro, and well, there's a slightly different idea of an attack here. As I predicted, the third shield has been banned, so Sneak is going to do the opposite and smash their way in. Maybe try and get a bit of a surprise factor here, the roll of the sense, pop some noise, some Grimbies, and just throw a plant in while Sneak is trying to get kills. But Sneak has to get killed, and it has to be uncontested. There's the break. Get rid of the fire, the long throw of the smoke, and now you've got to sort of operate, and there's Pasha getting one. The shotgun has moved right past the player. They're not aware of the one behind the half wall, and somehow Pasha still wins it out, but Gara in the glass is the crossfire. However, they haven't been able to get the kid down in the chaos, and they are a body down. Matt, the Buck, probably underneath, or at least potential of that position, which means that they can't comfortably go for the plant. They don't know that there won't be a sudden surprise factor. However, the surprise factor here is gone, Demo, as is pretty much all of their usable utility. No smokes left for the Glaz, no bees left, a couple of sense balls, fire and some grenades, but that is tough when you're up against what you're up against.
Evan, gonna attempt to push in towards East alongside Boomsy, but really now you're shifting all of the util that you would use towards, you know, Armory, over towards Archives, and now you're trying to attack the other side where there's still a vast amount of util that you have to go through, and they just don't have enough because they used a lot of it. You know, he's got no bees left. There's no smokes left either for the Glass. All they've got is some nades and a sense. That's it. So really, this is just not going to work. You're playing into the other reinforced side of VP, and he's going to use one of the senses to look towards that long. Garen able to find one, pushing up in towards Metal, but it still just looks like a very sorry affair for Wild, and that's the way it's going to end, as a 1v3 for Boomsy to try and clutch up in, but always is on that. Yeah, so obviously they've just ripped it and thought, let's try a rush. They didn't have any shields, which I think if you don't have the shield for border, it's very difficult to actually pull up the rushes. Now, from what I'd seen in terms of what they were attempting, was they had Boomsy with a lineup outside of break door, and he was able to throw the sense in, which would go straight through Metal, straight towards, you know, the far end of the armory bomb site. That sentinel would go up to allow the Amaru to go in and challenge the guy who would be, you know, normally playing over towards box or over towards the reinforced wall. But he didn't check the guy in half wall, and then he dies. But even at that stage, I still don't know really what the initial idea was, because that Amaru went in without the diffuser. So if you have site control, or as an Amaru, let's say he kills the guy in half wall, how does a diffuser get into that bomb site before VP retake it? The diffuser was with Boomsy, and he was outside of security window. Was he maybe thinking, oh, if my teammate takes armory, I can just walk in through armory door? That's not going to happen. There's two players inside security from VP who were holding that. So even, yes, I know it didn't work because they didn't get the kills to begin with, but even if they did get the kills, I'm struggling to even see the vision of how they would get in with the diffuser.
Attacker's objective is to defuse a bomb.
So 4-0 here, and what other ideas do they have to try and put into motion at this point? Because they've tried a few different ones, and obviously, as you said, they don't have the shield to build behind, but now they won't have it at all. They're going to try and do something a bit slower and steadier, play against the pings, and oh, will that be a rehost before the first engagement?
Yeah, it should be. 2 minutes 15 typically, isn't it?
Yeah,
I thought it was 2 minutes 15.
Yep, rehost confirmed. Okay. Now, obviously, we'll just get things back together as soon as possible, but yeah, so at this point, what do you sort of do from the side of Wild? Where's that headspace at? How do you try and at least get one, if not two, at the end of this Virtus.pro sort of starting half?
Well, obviously they took the time out, and then they go into round number 4, and they've tried to go for just a rush, and that hasn't worked. So it almost feels as though even their plan C hasn't worked. Not many teams prep for plan D, which is probably the worry. And now you're kind of in this limbo phase, aren't you? Where you don't really know what to do. I would say they're probably out of ideas. But somebody needs to step up. Somebody needs to come up with something. But just with the way VP's playing, really, what can you do? It's just one of those where VP look untouchable.
Yeah, it's like you always feel a bit bad when you're trying to give analysis of just saying in no
just shoot this, just kill, bro, just kill. You know,
in simpler terms,
simple as that.
For as deep as this game can get, for as sort of intricate and creative and aspirational and architectural. There is a shooting game at the core of it. And
I reckon up, down, mid.
Virtus.pro, they're really good at shooting games. And it's
very good.
And it's not every day. We even highlighted this. Sometimes teams are on their day and sometimes they're not. And unfortunately, WYLDE have hit Virtus.pro on their day and they've tried different things. And unfortunately, they're finding the same results. And, you know, it's not to say it's any part in their fault. But unfortunately, they're being punished for it either way.
Yeah, yeah. I think, you know, the big four, VP, G2, Falcon, Secret, whenever they're on their day, they've looked fantastic because all of them have had those days in this league where they've turned up, they're against a lesser opponent, and they've went in and made a statement. You know, yep. I think we cast it last week. We seen what Secret did to Matchko, where it was that 7-1 on Bank, and it was just, what can you do? And then G2 had the same thing against Gen G. You know, these big teams, whenever they are on it and they look so good, they are just that good. You know, that's what they're showing us is how deadly these teams can be, because naturally these are the teams that we expect to see representing our region at the events.
I think that's also the sort of driving force of it as well, is that this WYLDE team generically, when they've gone up against those big four teams, they have struggled. And the only one that they've really gone up against so far has been BDS. Obviously, they've not BDS, sorry, G2. BDS also handed them a pretty heavy game. But ahead of them, obviously, they've still got to play against Falcons. They're getting through this game. They had the secret game that you mentioned, and they were pretty weighted to one side. And I think it's not to say that you hit a bar. I'm wondering if there's always that element of a confidence of when you're up against the team. Sometimes the hardest thing is to get your shooting locked in, because you can play stuff by the book. You can have great by the book players and great by the book plays that it seems like they're trying to operate on, but they're suffering elsewhere, right? Whereas when you put them up against, you know, say Wolves or the BDS game where they got themselves a bit deeper, or, you know, Gen G where it went pretty much all the way, they can put a little bit more faith behind their guns because you're not up against one of the big four. And that's a tough thing for any promoted team, I think, to sort of have to get into the headspace of. It takes a lot of confidence to show up and do insane things. It takes a lot of confidence to be like Matchko and how they've sort of had that energy when they hit against the big teams. They almost go the other way, where they don't do specifically book plays against the big teams. They just play themselves out of their skin, or try to, and that energy helps tie them in some regards, or has helped them sort of get their teeth in, and from what was sort of a back and forth start, and yeah, they still got sort of dispatched by Falcons, but it gave them those extra couple of rounds. It gave them that win against Virtus.pro that took people a bit by surprise on Chalet. And even then, I think it was, as I quickly look over the stats, yeah, Dora went 12-6 in that game. Teb went even, and Pasha went 21-8, and they were still able to take Virtus.pro that day, which I think shows two things. One, there's that energy, but two, sometimes teams also aren't on their day. And sometimes you run into them when they are on their day. You know how we said before, stats can sometimes lie?
And you, well, you said that, not necessarily me. I think I'll give you the credit.
You don't want to you don't want to irritate Jesse J Chick with me?
Exactly. I don't want to make enemies. I'm not here to make enemies.
Okay. So when Demo earlier said stats can sometimes lie, I'm here to say that they can say the truth sometimes, Jesse. Sometimes they do.
He's just on backflip. Just stood up, rip the fat backflip just on top of the stairs. Loves it. I would pay great money to see Jesse J Chick perform a backflip. I think they've got a hidden gymnast personality inside of them. Yeah. Just overall, just the way this game is when it's a map like Border, which I think is a very punishing map if you aren't up to the task of getting kills, because it's not like your clubhouse, your lair, your labs, where we sit there and we really pinpoint, oh, this wall wasn't opened, oh, they didn't dump their util at the right time. A map like Border, unless you're getting kills and trading back, do not play this map, because that is the standard that you need to have to play this map. It is all about kills and it's all about trades. Positionings are key. Very little amount of hard breach that you would see in this map. It just doesn't really exist. It's all about those quick, fast operators that will win a gunfight. That is what works on Border. And VP understand that very, very well. You know, VP, like I've mentioned, they've upped their game. I mentioned this last week. They've aligned themselves with the way the meta has went. You know, we would never have seen this VP a year ago. That VP would be playing Border slow, methodical, sitting back, just hoping that you know, the first plan works. No, this team now plays off the cuff. They play fast, they play aggressive, they want to get in your face. They opportunity spot, they have these pocket plays, they have the shield involved in their strategies. They've stepped up massively to where they need to be. I just can't wait to see them get into international gameplay. That's what I really want to see from VP. I want to see them up against Brazil.
We will hopefully be back in the game sooner rather than later. Obviously, it's a bit of a break in momentum, and to be honest, you know, sometimes we'll talk about how this is beneficial for some teams, or some teams are building momentum. It doesn't really feel like the pace of this game has changed. Virtus.pro, I'm not going to say they've been on like cruise control, but they've kept a very steady pace. They're early on in a long race. They haven't needed to break out into a sprint yet. This probably isn't going to slow them down too much.
It's like whenever you see them, you know, the Olympians doing like the, what is it, like the, you know, like the really long runs where they're like the 8,000 meters, whatever it is, or 10,000, you know, those, and you see them just kind of jogging, and then you hear the bell at the last lap, and they're just gunning for it.
And they just go.
We're nowhere near that yet.
Absolutely.
That's nowhere near it.
And I think that's it. So at this point, they'll get in and probably hit the map at the same pace. Wild, obviously, Boomsy was the one that's disconnected, so I'm assuming that's them talking and just getting things back up and running and confirming when they are back in and able. But if you have missed the point of the map up until now, it is currently 4-0, and we will be heading into Vent Workshop next. Virtus.pro have been leading on their defense here and have been pretty solid. Joystick still yet to die, touch wood. 7 kills, no deaths, 1 assist. But at the same time, the only person who is negative currently on the side of Virtus.pro is Shepard, 1-2. So also 3 players with 100% cost currently in the game for Virtus.pro.
Obviously, Wild, and in terms of how this stage has went, you know, they have suffered pretty big losses. I think they actually do have the worst round difference in the league. You know, especially against the bigger sides, you know, 7-2 against BDS, 7-2 against G2. Obviously, whenever we also seen them against Secret, you know, 7-1 as well. They have this tendency where if things aren't close at the start, they just never really get going, and it does feel as though we're kind of ambling towards that, where it will just be, I mean, I'm pretty sure Fresh predicted a 7-0 for this game in his predictions. That's what he said.
Well, Fresh vibes his predictions out, as he used his defense for getting the previous one.
He actually tried to gaslight me last week.
Oh yeah?
See, whenever he was getting the predictions correct,
yeah,
he was saying that the whole play date was actually pre-recorded, and he generally tried to convince me that it was, and I was going insane. He actually tried to gaslight me that it was all pre-recorded, and he was saying that Blasted Ubisoft aren't happy that he's leaked the results and all this. He was proper going for it.
Did you believe him?
Yes. I was ready to ask. I was ready to ask him for the lottery numbers. Honestly.
Demo. We are in the group chat of production. Do you not think we would have known?
That's what we were getting punked.
No, I think I mean, I'm saddened you believed it, but also not that surprised.
But it was crazy. He was getting it like spot on correct. You can't blame me. Everyone on Twitter was thinking he was the Messiah.
I like how he really wanted to shave Dez. I like that was his goal.
Dez having a meltdown as well during that
Dez having a meltdown.
Game as well,
I mean, I don't think it. I don't. Would it have happened? Imagine a bald Dez and a bald Tim.
Wasn't it a tattoo?
Oh, was it a tattoo?
It was a tattoo. He was going to have fresh tattooed on his body.
Oh, yeah, the eyebrow shave was the last one.
Yeah.
Where Des shaved his eyebrows off.
It's tattoo afresh.
Wow.
Imagine Des doing like a Steve-O where it's just a massive picture of fresh on his back.
Immortalized forever.
That would be great.
Yeah, I'm sure he would love that. 4-0, we are back in the game. Thank you for being patient with us, everybody in chat. Now, let's see how much more of it we have left. Obviously, that was on the back of a disconnect, but as the round was in progress, I do believe everybody has to play the same operators on the attack as it was before.
5 seconds to insertion.
So, last time we were here, it was a quick rush from Wild, but then an excellent retake from VP. Now, is it a case of are Wild going to get caught out by the same retake and actually hold their angles and win their gunfights? Or will VP just not even allow a plant to go, you know, in the first place? Which I think probably the latter will be the more likely one. I don't think VP will allow Wild just to walk in as safely as they did. And to be fair, I don't really think Wild could. They don't have the safety of the Blackbeard anymore. You know, that's been a great ban that VP have obviously targeted. You know, shields, massive thing on border with the amount of space that you can take, and obviously helps whenever you go for plants. So without that, you do feel a little bit for Evan, because he has been that, you know, getting most of his better side of Siege on the shield. So if he doesn't have that, he has a little bit more weaker. But again, that's a target ban for you. You know, you take shields away from a player who loves shields, they will be hindered because of it.
So the pressure here on towards the top of East now, as they try and just shimmy and shake their way around, looking to try and dig up ultimately and put the pressure on here. Now they're going to be challenged as soon as they I was going to say as soon as they go through the door, but they're actually not entirely watching the vertical. They're still opening up the angles, and they've been able to slip their way through. Sneak is aware of the player that is currently above them and doesn't really want to directly challenge as of yet, but now two have been able to sneak through. So Joystick, although he's quite hurt, hasn't wanted to entirely throw himself into the position and the threat. The pulse comes out and they set themselves around. And last time they went for the rush plant, it didn't quite work, but here Virtus.pro haven't handed Wild a free body or an easy engagement, so they're going to still have to try and force something out. Will they go for the vertical take, or will they just try and throw it in? You kind of hope for the vertical, but no, Evan goes through, takes a chunk of damage from somewhere, but he's gone deep in and off the piece plant position. The C4 over the top. Now they know where he is, but they can't quite get the angle in time. They get the plant secured and they get out of there. There's 2 kills that'll come through here for the side of Virtus.pro, but at this point now we're in a similar spate to where we were before. Can Wild have shown lessons learned? They have 2 players on the outside watching for the windows. Deimos is off for the swing as well to try and just offer a little bit of width to cover the door itself. They have time to work with, but the time has ticked fairly steadily away, and well, with no keepers to try and build behind, they're hopping in for the angle. There's Matt's getting one. They're in and they're out. Sneak gets the second, and there they go. Now holding on to the defuse though. Will it be picked up? Will they get there in time? They're too far away, and there it is. Dan just held on.
Yeah, just had to stick it. You said a similar position from where we were the last time, correct? Somehow, Wild able to move in and get the plant down. However, you look at where that plant happened. Yes, he planted in a position where there was no vertical holes on him. That was, you know, that allowed him to get the plant down. But you think about that from a perspective of everyone else who's outside. How on earth are they supposed to cover that diffuser?
Attackers.
It's not the same as planting inside of vents, where you can sit on the window, sit outside main door, have an angle onto that diffuser. Look at where he's planted. There is a blind spot that stops that long angle from the player inside a supply over towards custom side. He cannot play that long angle. So the plant position was just all wrong. And you seen it was very simple for VP to look where it was, just put bodies in front, get that diffuser, job done. So yeah, plant position, let them down.
Razor wire in position.
Well, 5-0, and Fresh is helping on 2 fronts. 1, his prediction was a 7-0, and 2, he's helping illuminate rulebook things for me. They can change, apparently, even though it was in progress. Apparently, that's been a thing for a little bit of time. I just can't read. There was an open wind there for you to take the mick out. I mean, you could have if you wanted. That was space. There was some airtime.
You know, I'm not as mean as you think I am.
That's fine. I read the
Unless you're
rulebook
called,
now.
unless you're called fresh, and then it's a different story.
No, yeah, you can go in on them as much as you want. The Flores does as much work as they did before, but is going to go somewhere else last time. They could not get any success with the drone directly onto site, so they're not going to actually do that. Remember, last time we were on this site, Wild couldn't even get in the building. So this time they're trying to get themselves close together, but they lose the thinker first out. The swing and the fight, bit of timing there as Dan is able to win his first on CC. He could try and escape if he wants to, but they're currently just with Pasha on the shoulder of cover, stepping in very aggressively. There goes Boomsy as well. They lose out on those Flores drones, and here the attempted close down on vertical has netted them no result once again. So, Wild, 3 versus 5. What do you do to give yourself a lifeline before you find yourself staring down the wrong end of a perfect, flawless half? Not that, as Evan is called out as well. They do get one, so it won't be a flawless end to it. But there's still a long way to go.
Yeah, and for Wild, they're struggling to get in the kind of foothold in the map. Been able to work their way into security, but they've sacrificed 3 lives for it, so definitely not a worthy trade. Last Dokkaebi call also being used by Matt, so that's it for the info. Still got 2 Lion scans, but it's not going to be as strong as what the Dokkaebi gets you. But that DMR ready to rip through these soft floors, but not really in a position to do so because there's still players above. Oh, maybe. No, just again, the lines do sometimes play tricks on us, but still. They know he's here. Should be a matter of time before VP have that dreaded double swing that they love oh so much. You know, one thing with VP, their crossfires are superb. There we have it, VP. Lock it down. Just in cruise control. You know, on the motorway. 6th gear. Overtaking when they need to. But, hey, just... What do you say? What do you expect? This is VP at their best?
I think that's it, right? Is VP, again, that they're not making mistakes. Everything seems very well thought out. And yeah, there was the sort of dash towards getting the kit on the previous round, the one just before the one that we saw down underneath. But, you know, they still had the confidence to stick it. They still knew what the plan was. And there again, the way that they'll get those opening kills, fall back, set up that cross fight. They bait them into the position that they knew that they would know that they were in as they were last time. But now they have the player that's above the hatch on the sort of office window, ready to get the cross on towards long. It's just rehearsed. Well and truly rehearsed. Now, 6-0. What can Wild do? Hey, if this had started the other way, they could be starting 0-2-0. This could be a flawless either side. There's always the potential. Unfortunately, it's not likely. Virtus.pro have just been playing brilliant, and it's hard to argue with it.
6-0. Not something you see all too often. Especially at 6-0 border defense, where attack has a lot of things going for them on this map, but just Wild haven't shown it. Especially look at the match statistics for Border so far in this stage. Border has a 57% defensive win rate. So yes, it is defender-sided, but shouldn't be a 6-0. The attack should at least be taken 2.
Demo, you're telling me the flawless half is a statistical anomaly?
Oh, not this again.
Whoa. I'll tell the press. You tell the other press.
Yeah, there's been 19 attack round wins on Border.
Oh.
Where are they all? So I want to know.
Not here. But there might be at least one more to put this over the edge. Virtus.pro, they just need one single drip of success. And they're going to start trying to hunt out the player on East. Now they are being pulled, and the Deimos is safe in their position to sort of just say, I'm up here, ha 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 ha. Everyone knows where you are. The only option they have at this point is to get out of there. Sneak doesn't want to be on the wrong end of the track. He knows that there'll be pressure coming from places that he cannot see. And he actually wins out the first fight because of it. IQ gone. Joystick wanted to try and lock in the end of that on the back of the Grimbees. And, well, that's some utility spent towards a player who has since escaped. Good move there from the Oryx, and they did that just at the end of the sort of Deimos track. They moved away and then went back into the position, so they probably played a little bit of a surprise trick there on Joystick. Now, eyes on towards Office, and Sneak's going to see if they can hold out. Not sure if they have the option of escaping down the hatch. If they want to, it is soft, and there it is, opened up. But the pressure is actually coming from underneath, so instead they've got to try and fight their way out, hit the pipe, get yourself a second, and get out of there.
Good though from VP, analysing the issue, of course, being that sandwich position inside of Office, and they've used the Deimos track to put the pressure on them, make them move back, and it's allowed them to open up that wall now. But still, Fountain is going to be the next thing that need to try and break through, as Sneak is currently playing in that position.
Swapping
still think VP, though, you know, they've still got a good amount of utility. You still got nades that you can obviously combo with the Deimos to try and kind of catch people by surprise. But speaking of catching by surprise, Sneak has caught two of them just by swinging out of Fountain. And it looks as though it won't be that dreaded 7-0 for WYLDE. They may get at least one round on the board. Unless Shepard and Dan can do something magical, but Border, whenever you don't have the numbers, it is difficult.
Yeah, you're sort of on the uphill here, and with how WYLDE have played this, especially Sneak sort of just baiting them in and utilizing the abilities of the Oryx has just bought them more and more time. They're setting up themselves a big, long width on this hole. They're pretty much entirely stretched over that side of the map, but they're making sure that their presence is still known. Pressure swings round, Boomsy gets Dan, and a flawless start here, the perfect possible. As some coaches say, we're one round up. 1 of 6.
1 of 6. It's a start. Start at least, but a long way to go. Yeah, VP, just getting caught out. You know, I think Sneak just fire. I'll have a crack, I'll have a swing, and hey, ended up getting 2 kills from it. And look, at Border, I think if you just go behind on the attack in the fashion that they did, you can't get back into it. It's very, very tough. So numbers, very, very important to have. But that is the top floor locked out now, though. And a point that you always like to make, it's eventually teams will have to get onto that third bomb site choice, won't they? That is usually where we see the attackers be more fruitful in their advances and getting rounds just in any map.
It's the big problem with it, right? Is that Virtus.pro just need to get it to stick once. They don't need any other pressure. They're playing a best of 1 every single round at this point. And WYLDE, unfortunately, they want that mindset. They want the idea that they have to win every single round, because they do, but it's much harder to lock in when you're on the other side of the pressure of it. For a while, if WYLDE are able to tie 3 rounds in a row and perform a rotation, suddenly, in the air, you feel the shift of energy. You feel something else swirling, and that's something that WYLDE can sort of grab onto. So Virtus.pro, if they want to get this done quickly and painlessly, they want to do it in the next 2 rounds. Otherwise, there's that hope that WYLDE have done it once. Why couldn't they do it again?
Then comes the Monty, taking that east control, and one little difference that WYLDE's approach compared to VP. VP were very heavy and holding that east side, weren't they? They had that player behind the single reinforced wall, swinging onto either doorway towards east. But just feels as though WYLDE maybe just allowing too much control over the VP at this moment in time. Aren't really looking to put up a fight. Yes, they still have, of course, roamers in towards that top floor, 4 of them to be precise, but for VP, as long as they can get into the building, they can really start working, and Joystick will open up for that first pick.
Well, that's it. First pick gone, and with always just reading the information, well, it's just feeding it to Joystick. Dan gets a kill onto Mats from a Claymore, and maybe 1 was the trick, but 2 was a step too far. Evan and Boomsy do get the first, but they've still got Monty that took a lot of damage there. Not entirely sure where from, but they're clear of it since. And And there's suddenly Pasha. Okay. They now have the control of the power behind them. They've got some space to work with. They're being pinged continually, and they know roughly where the player is, and they're just sort of reading that out, expecting the sort of swing on it. They have to operate around always. But instead, Shepard is going to take the fight. They're going to go for the pre-fire, locks it in. Evan did not know that the position was being read, and that is a terrifying thing to look at. Immediately seeing the Monty. Where do you go at this point? Down and out. It's kind of the only option here. Boomsy has everything to do to save for the team, and the Monty's not going to drop the hatch, because why would you? Just pulls their way back. There's watch from above, and Virtus.pro 7-1. They find the end, but they just played brilliantly today.